Imagine a giraffe, an animal we recognize instantly. Tall, graceful, peacefully chewing leaves. Now, imagine that giraffe can fly. Imagine it's not a gentle herbivore, it's a killer. A predator, standing over 16 feet tall, with a head the size of a small car. A creature that hunts dinosaurs. This isn't a monster from a fantasy movie. This creature was real. It dominated the skies and the land at the very end of the age of dinosaurs. It's called Hatzegopteryx, and it redefines what we thought was possible for a flying animal. For decades, we've been amazed by the pterosaurs, the flying reptiles that ruled the Mesozoic. We knew they got big, but Hatzegopteryx was something else entirely. It wasn't just big. It was a brute. How could an animal this enormous even get off the ground? How could it fly with a skull 3 meters long? And the biggest question of all, how did this flying reptile become the most terrifying land predator in its entire ecosystem? Today, on Weird Animal Evolution, we are decoding the bizarre and brutal life of the giant sky predator of Hațeg. To understand this monster, we first have to understand its home. Our story begins 66 million years ago, just before the asteroid changed everything. Much of Europe was a tropical archipelago, a scattering of islands. One of these was Hațeg Island, in what is now modern-day Romania. Hațeg Island was weird. It was a lost world defined by a bizarre evolutionary rule, island dwarfism. Animals that were giants on the mainland evolved into miniature versions here. There were sauropods, the longnecks called Magyarosaurus, but they were only the size of a modern cow. There were duck-billed dinosaurs like Zalmoxes, barely larger than a big dog. It was an entire ecosystem of dwarf dinosaurs. And for a long time, paleontologists were puzzled. They found these small herbivores, but they couldn't find the large predators. On the mainland, a T-Rex or a Tarbosaurus would have been keeping these populations in check. But on Hațeg, there were no large theropods, no giant meat, or so we thought. Then, in 1978, paleontologists uncovered something, a fragment of a skull, a massive cervical vertebra neck bone. They were unbelievably huge, but they didn't belong to a dinosaur. They belonged to a pterosaur. They named it Hatzegopteryx thambema. The name literally means Hațeg, basin monster, and it couldn't have been more accurate. So, just how big was this monster? Let's get the numbers out of the way, because they are staggering. When Hatzegopteryx was flying, its wingspan is estimated to be between 10 and 12 meters. That's 33 to 39 feet. That is the size of a small airplane, a World War II Spitfire. But the truly mind-blowing part is its size on the ground. When this creature landed, it would fold its wings, using its wing knuckles as front feet, adopting a four-legged stance. In this position, it stood as tall as a modern adult giraffe. Let me repeat that, a flying reptile, as tall as a giraffe. Its skull alone was nearly 3 meters, or 10 feet, long. This immediately presented a paradox. We already knew about another giant pterosaur, the famous Hatzegopteryx from North America. Hatzegopteryx was just as big, with a similar massive wingspan. But for years, scientists debated what it ate. Its build was relatively slender. Its neck was long, thin, and almost delicate, like a giant heron. The popular idea was that it stalked small prey lizards, baby dinosaurs, maybe fish. But Hatzegopteryx was built different. It was the heavyweight champion. This is the key to its entire bizarre lifestyle. When scientists examined the neck bones of Hatzegopteryx, they were shocked. Where the Hatzegopteryx neck was long and slender, the neck of Hatzegopteryx was short and thick, incredibly robust. The bone walls were thick, and the internal structure was a dense network of struts, like reinforced styrofoam, balancing strength and weight. This was not a neck for delicately plucking fish from a stream. This was a neck built to withstand immense force. This was a neck built for fighting. And then there's the head. That 10-foot-long skull wasn't just long, it was wide. Its beak was half a meter, 1.5 feet across at the base. It didn't taper to a fine point like a heron's. It was broad, rigid, and reinforced. It was less of a spear and more of a bat. This anatomy, the giant size, the brutish neck, the massive wide beak, was a terrifying evolutionary puzzle. Why would a flying animal be built like a tank? The answer was right in front of them. It was back on Hatzeg Island. The answer was chillingly simple. The reason there were no large theropod predators on Hatzeg Island is because that job was already taken. This was Hatzegopteryx's evolutionary masterstroke. It was a flying reptile that had evolved to fill the ecological niche of a Tyrannosaurus. It was the apex predator on the ground. Think about that. This creature wasn't just flying overhead, looking for fish. It was spending the majority of its time stalking through the forests and plains of Hatzeg, hunting the dwarf dinosaurs. This lifestyle isn't without precedent. Today, we see birds like the marabou stork, which are large, have massive beaks, and will confidently stalk and kill prey on the ground. Hatzegopteryx was this concept, scaled up to nightmare proportions. Its prey wasn't lizards or fish. Its prey was dinosaurs. A young Magyarosaurus, the coup-sized sauropod, or a Zalmoxes, the large dog-sized hadrosaur, would have been a perfect meal. But how exactly did it hunt? It wasn't built for a high-speed chase. It didn't have the razor-sharp teeth of a T-Rex. It had something arguably more terrifying. The weapon was the beak itself. That 10-foot-long skull was essentially a giant, reinforced, pointed battering ram. The leading hypothesis for its hunting method is just brutal. Hatzegopteryx would stalk its prey, its giraffe-like height giving it a perfect vantage point. When it got close, it wouldn't bite, it would strike. With one phenomenally powerful downward thrust, driven by that incredibly thick, muscular neck, it would stab its prey. The beak was so large and rigid it could have punctured hide, muscle, and even bone. A strike to the neck or spine would mean instant paralysis. A strike to the body would create a wound so massive that the prey would die from shock and blood loss in seconds. There would be no struggle, no epic battle, just one precise, devastating execution. And then it would likely swallow its prey whole. Its beak was wide enough, and its throat, the gape, would have been enormous. It could have swallowed a human-sized creature without even pausing. This is the why of its weirdness. The thick neck, it evolved to deliver and absorb the impact of these killing blows. The robust skull, it was a weapon that wouldn't shatter on impact. Hatzegopteryx was a flying guillotine. But this all leads to the final, critical question. How did a 500-pound animal, as tall as a giraffe, even get into the air? For a long time, this baffled scientists for all giant pterosaurs. A bird of this size couldn't do it. An albatross, one of our largest flying birds, needs a long runway to get airborne. If Hatzegopteryx needed to run, its size and four-legged stance would make that impossible. The answer is one of the weirdest and most brilliant adaptations in pterosaur evolution. The quad launch. A Hatzegopteryx didn't run to take off. It did the opposite. From its four-legged standing position, it would first crouch, folding its long wing fingers back. Then, in one explosive movement, it would push off the ground, not with its legs, but with its arms. Its wing arms were incredibly powerful. The launch was more like a pole vault. It would vault itself upwards into the air, with enough force to clear the ground. Then it would spread its massive wings and catch the air. This is a biomechanical miracle. It meant that this giant, ground-dwelling predator was never trapped. It could hunt in a dense forest, kill its prey, and then, from a standing start, simply explode into the sky. This creature was a true master of two realms. On the ground, it was an untouchable tyrant, a walking nightmare for dinosaurs. And in the air, it was the undisputed king of the Cretaceous skies. It was an evolutionary solution that is truly, utterly unique. Evolution is a story of adaptation, but sometimes, it produces a perfect monster. Hatzegopteryx wasn't just another giant pterosaur. It was an evolutionary experiment that pushed the limits of life. It was a flying animal that evolved to be a terrestrial apex predator. It solved a unique problem, an island full of food, with no one to hunt it. So, this giant flyer adapted. It sacrificed the slender grace of its cousins for brute, terrifying strength. It developed a neck built for combat and a skull that was a 10-foot-long executioner's axe. It was a creature that could stalk dinosaurs like a giraffe, kill like a battle axe, and then explode into the sky like a catapult. It is, without a doubt, one of the most bizarre and terrifying predators that has ever lived. The world of prehistoric life is full of impossible creatures like Hatzegopteryx. What bizarre evolutionary story do you think we should tackle next? Let us know in the comments below. If you're passionate about unbelievable evolutionary stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe to Weird Animal Evolution, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any bizarre creatures in the next video. Thanks, and see you next time.